And Paul, if you can do our land acknowledgement, please.
The Sitka School Board acknowledges that our schools are located on the ancestral homelands of the Tlingit people who have lived here in Sitka since time immemorial. We express our deepest respect and gratitude for our indigenous neighbors, the Tlingit, for their enduring care and protection of Tlingit Ani.
Thank you. And if we can do a roll call.
Todd Gebler.
Here.
Blossom Teal Olson. Paul Ryu.
Here.
Andrew Haynes.
Here.
Amy Morrison.
Right, and we can get a motion to approve the proposed agenda and consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
And I'm sorry, was that only for the consent agenda? Or was it for the proposed agenda and the consent agenda? Sorry.
I just said proposed agenda.
Sorry, couldn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Also the consent agenda.
Okay. So the motion, can you just repeat the motion, just to clarify, sorry?
Sure. I move to approve the consent agenda as well as the proposed agenda. Second.
All right, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed agenda and the consent agenda. Is there any public comment to the motion? Any board comment? All right, seeing none, motion passed, or sorry. Sorry, and then we're only just beginning. Is there any objection to the motion? All right, seeing none, motion passes. Actually, I'm sorry, there are financial items on here, so we have to take a roll call vote on this one. Sorry, guys.
Todd Gebler.
Yes.
Blossom Teal Olson.
Yes.
Paul Ryu.
Yes.
Andrew Haynes.
Yes.
Amy Morrison.
Yes. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 6, special reports, government to government. Do we have anybody here tonight under this? I can't tell, Ms. Himshoot, if you're moving to come up. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Rebecca Himshoot with the Sitka Assembly. Very much looking forward to meeting with all of you tomorrow night, so not a whole lot obviously to talk about right now, but I'm very interested to go over the letter you sent and learn more about it tomorrow night. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else in the government to government? All right. So item 7, recognitions, and we have a recognition for Addie Polson, and I think, oh, there you are. I was like, I think I saw her come in here tonight. So do we have a microphone, like a handheld? Or do we? Okay. Addie, come on up. Is it on? Yep, okay. So Addie has been named as a delegate representing Alaska at the 60th Annual U.S. Senate Youth Program, which will be held virtually March 6th through 9th of this year. During the program week, the student delegates will attend online meetings and briefings with senators, the president, a justice of the Supreme Court, leaders of cabinet agencies, and senior members of the national media, among others. I don't know how to say your full, Adelaide? Is that it? Okay. Adelaide Polson, a senior at Sitka High School, serves as the president of the National Honor Society. Additionally, she's the student body secretary, the senior class vice president, co-president of Youth for Sustainable Futures and PEP Club, and co-captain of the girls cross country team. Addie gives back by volunteering extensively for nonprofits in Sitka, organizing trash cleanups, and serving as a community tutor. She hopes to major in human biology at a 4-year college and then attend medical school. And this is a really, really huge honor, and we're really proud of you for this. Oh, thank you. I forgot the certificate. I am not on point tonight, sorry. Would you like to say a few things about like the process and how you applied and maybe what you're looking forward to and just a few things?
Yeah, sure. So as the president of NHS, the National Honor Society, one of my jobs is to find scholarships for our members. So I actually heard about the scholarship when I was looking for scholarships to share with the members. And right when I was announcing it, my dad texted me and he told me that when he was in high school, he had done a similar program and that I should apply. And I think the deadline was a week later, so it sounded kind of crazy, but my parents were like, you got this, Addie. So the first step was to write 2 two-page essays and 2 one-page essays. After that, they narrowed it down to, I think, 10 people. And those 10 people all had to take an exam on the government and history, which the government class helped out a lot with. So good to see all you guys here. And then finally, 5 people were chosen from that, and you were interviewed by a panel, and they chose 2 delegates. So yeah, it's a long process, but it was pretty fun, and yeah, paid off.
Well, congratulations, and we'll take the picture. And Superintendent Hauser was just whispering in my ear. What was it you said?
Yeah, just while we're recognizing Addie, also want to recognize her championship win, Region 5, this last weekend. So public forum debate, I got a chance to judge that. Was pretty awesome. You guys did an amazing job. So congratulations on that. How about a round of applause for Addie for her accomplishment?
Thank you. What's next? Who's got the next one? Is it you? Okay.
Let's see, I saw Hank walk in. Hank, would you come up here? Is Anna Prussian here? Anna, would you come up here, please? And then, is Tyler here? Tyler Hodges? I can't see anybody with my glasses on. That's ironic. Come on up, you guys. So when the district needed workers to organize and package COVID-19 tests, Anna Prussian, Hank Maxwell, and Tyler Adres, who worked as summer maintenance staff, came highly recommended. Anna, Hank, and Tyler worked weekends after school, over winter break, and continue to schedule time to fulfill the needs of this important part of the district's mitigation plan. Sitka School District would like to recognize them for all their work towards this important project. Thanks, you guys.
And then thirdly, we would like to recognize some very important members of our school district staff. I always hate to draw on my own experiences, but when I was a teacher for a short while, your custodians help you out so much, and then your secretaries are right there too. If you need something done, they're the people to talk to. So tonight we want to honor our building secretaries and all of the work that they do. So if you are here, please come up. From Baranoff Elementary, Diana Erickson and Caitlin Hull. Keith Gushi-Heen, Twyla Kevney, and Jessica Charlton. Do we have anyone here tonight? From Blatchley, Barbara Webb and Susie Wilson. And Sitka High, Carrie Spackman, Brooke Rivera, and Ryan Haig. And then Pacific High School, Barbara Jones. If we have anyone here tonight. So let's give a round of applause for our building secretaries and all that they do.
There's just one more recognition, and I thought we take this opportunity. So sorry, Amy, I hope you don't mind, but it is National School Board Recognition Month. And so you'll see the beautiful stars that were made out of recycled lunch bags from Baranoff, and also there are gift bags from the schools for all of you. So thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you do for our community, for our schools. We really appreciate it. And happy School Board Recognition Month. How about a round of applause for our school board members?
Thank you. I didn't even know that. So, did you?
I apologize, President Morrison. I do understand that I kind of arrived right on time, but may I ask to add on one recognition? I think I talked to you about having it during my report, but we do have persons to be heard, and this little person has a bedtime.
Sure.
Okay. So, Uvanga Ataka, Bunny Rock. My name is Blossom Teal Olson. Tonight in the audience, I have my daughters, Teslin Twitchell and Luca B. Twitchell. Tonight is very special because it's Luca's 10th birthday. And I want to say that in all of her 10 years, no matter what, there's something on her birthday that keeps us from celebrating 100%. So I would like to take this time to call up Elisima, that is Teslin. Her name is Elisima, which means to know. And Tilisiuk, that is Luca B. Please come up. You don't have to be afraid. Oh, you gotta come over on this side. So I am happy to be on Tlingit Army, but I am Inupiaq from Kotzebue. I'm going to take off my mask for a moment. Hopefully someday, as you can see, I hope these markings on my face will become permanent. For me, they mean so much. For my people, it means levels in my life that I have accomplished. The dots are those of the times that I fought. Elisima, you want to take off your mask? Elisima has a straight line, meaning I fought for her. So she has a stronger path in front of her, and she is a young lady. And so as she grows, she will continue to grow more lines. And tonight is very special because Luca B, although she is only 10, in her lifetime, as she grows, she will grow more lines. And as we say up north, she is a baby, and we baby her. And this gesture is to let her know that we're going to give her a little bit more independence. And while she has her father's side, Yupik, Sami, Tlingit, and Haida bloodlines, my children have Inupiaq hearts. So that means that she leads with grace and strength. That also means she may have a temper. But that also means she has strength and the ability to be humble enough to ask for forgiveness. So tonight is really special, and thank you for being a part of this tonight, and I hope we have more cultural awareness during our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Blossom, for sharing that with us. I think it actually kind of ties together with school board awareness and then having your daughter's birthday tonight, because a little plug for school board members, sorry, but not sorry. I don't think people realize this is a volunteer position, and we give hundreds and hundreds of hours to serve our communities and our kids, and our families give up a lot in return because of our service. And case in point, you get to miss your daughter's 10th birthday tonight because, I mean, not miss it, but have other obligations. And I feel like I'm missing my daughter's basketball game tonight, you know, but we do this because of our service to our community. So thank you for sharing that with us. And moving on to business, persons to be heard. Persons to be heard is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board about a topic that is not on the agenda. As these are not agenda items, no board deliberation or action will occur in response. Questions for clarification may be posed by board members. The board may choose to refer items to the superintendent or designee for further action. The standard time limit for comments will be 3 minutes unless otherwise stated by the board president with consent of the board. A timer is used and a sound will indicate when time expires. All comments must be respectful, and charges or complaints against specific employees are not permitted per Alaska statute. Members of the public are referred to board policies 1312, 1312.1, 1312.2, 1312.3, and associated administrative regulations, as well as to board bylaw 9323A for information on how to lodge complaints. Speakers are also asked to please state their full name for the record prior to speaking. And I just want to point out that this, again, is for items that are not on the agenda. And since we do have later on the agenda a discussion on COVID mitigation plan, this would, anything relating to that would not fall under this portion of the meeting. So that being said, are there any persons to be heard tonight? And if there are, just go ahead and come on up.
Good evening, Mike Vieira, currently serving as the president of the Sitka Education Association. And on behalf of the staff and teachers and Sitka Education Association, we wanted to say thank you and say happy School Board Appreciation Month and let you know that we appreciate you and all that you've done to guide us through the last couple of years and work collaboratively with us to come to a solution. And we can be happy that we're not calling in the National Guard to substitute teach in our schools like NPR had on their story today. So we appreciate you. We realize that even tonight there's two of you giving up big parts of your family, and you all give up parts of your family to guide us through. So thank you. In addition, I missed the opportunity to testify under the consent agenda, but there was a contract on there for services for technology support for our district, and it's brought up conversations that we've had with Mr. Hauser over the last couple of months after we lost Mr. Crane about our need to address our IT director and maybe even our IT staff. And I would encourage you as a board to, as you go through the budget process, to think collectively about what that should look like. Maybe it should look like more than a director. Maybe it needs to be a department. And if we're going to attract a director, maybe we need to investigate what other directors are being paid and the kind of support that they have in their departments. It might be a combination of lack of appropriate salary and lack of other staff that are stopping us from finding someone. And we've run into challenges without having someone on staff and ready to help affecting classrooms. So encourage you guys to look into that, and I would argue that we need to move back to having a director plus a support staff to keep our district running with all the technology that we've introduced over the last few years. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adelaide Polson, and I am a peer educator with the Sitka Youth Leadership Committee, or SILC. SILC is a group of about a dozen local high school students that meets weekly to work on projects that promote respect, equity, and healthy relationships in Sitka. Every year, we identify our main goals and focus areas as a group, and this year, healthy relationships, education, and messaging, addressing harmful norms, and increasing knowledge and access to mental health education and resources are our priorities. February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, so we thought it fitting to share our work with promoting knowledge about healthy relationships with the school board this month. Teaching about healthy relationships is critical in high schools especially, with more than 1.5 million high schoolers having reported experiencing abusive or controlling behaviors while in a relationship. Between October 2021 and January 2022, our peer educators have reached 146 students through school presentations at both Sitka High School and Mount Edgecombe, presentations at the Cloud, and presentations at Ravensway. Following our presentations, we asked students to fill out a survey. 90% of students either agreed or strongly agreed with the statement, quote, "After this presentation, I can name at least 3 examples of red flags of unhealthy relationships," and 92% of students either agreed or strongly agreed with the statement, "If I or a friend were in an unhealthy relationship, I know what resources are available." I'm proud to see that our work as peer educators is paying off, and I'm very thankful for this opportunity to share our work with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Addie. Any other persons to be heard tonight? Sorry, can you push the button on the...
There we go. Hello, my name's Donald Waynarts.
Right into the mic, please.
Hello, my name's Donald Waynarts II. I'm here from Pacific High and talking about masks today. And I feel that...
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but if we're going to talk about masks, I would have to go under the later item on the agenda about COVID mitigation. So you can save it, but just it goes in a different place in our meeting.
Well, all right.
So I can let you know when that time would be to come up, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak there too.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, at my school, me and my peers kind of feel choked by these masks.
I know, I'm going to have to ask you to speak. You will get the chance to speak. It's just at a different point and just a little bit later in our agenda. I promise.
Hi. Can you just clarify what is on and off? I mean, it's a broad spectrum of COVID mitigation. So what is on the table and what is off?
So
we know.
Later during the COVID mitigation plan, it would be anything related to COVID. So whether we're talking masks in the schools, testing in the schools, anything related to anything that is a COVID mitigation plan, it would be on that portion of the agenda.
Okay, because to my understanding, it was just mitigation as far as like the plan itself that didn't underline specific issues. So,
nope, and you'll get the same exact, it's no different, it's just a different place in the agenda where that goes.
The problem is that we don't have a guarantee of having that conversation with you yet.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, it's item 13A, and we'll have public comment in that section of the meeting.
Because it was to my understanding that we needed it to be voted on twice, right?
No.
No.
We'll do everything at the end of it. It's all good. Jason Anderson here, and I got something. Let's talk about hypoxia. Anybody know what that is? It's a condition in which the body or a region of the body is deprived of adequate oxygen supply at the tissue level.
Mr. Anderson, I'm going to have to ask you.
This doesn't have anything to do with mitigation. I'm just giving you guys knowledge right now. And if you see anything on here that says anything about masks, then let me know.
Okay.
Hypoxia can be classified as either generalized, affecting the whole body, or local, affecting a region of the body. Let's talk about cerebral hypoxia. This is when the brain isn't getting enough oxygen. The brain needs a certain amount of oxygen every minute. If oxygen levels in the blood are not enough, the body may increase blood flow to compensate. If this is still not enough, the brain will begin to be negatively affected. Immediate signs of poor oxygen circulation to the brain may include, but not limited to, difficulty with complex tasks, poor short-term memory loss capacity, decreased motor control, cyanosis, bluish tone of the skin, increased heart rate, maybe I got this going on, fainting, headaches, restlessness, and shortness of breath. No matter how oxygen deprivation occurs, the long-term resulting damage will put you at risk for developing dementia. By ensuring you are in an adequate breathing environment at all times, you can likely prevent this. Oxygen-rich environments help keep zombies at bay. Thank you.
Are there any other persons to be heard tonight? All right, so moving on to item 9, school highlights. Ms. LaCrone, you are on.
Hi, good evening. So I want to thank all the school board members for everything you guys have been doing. And I do want to talk about the snowflakes that were made for you guys. Those were made from a first grade classroom. All of our lunches are delivered in bags. And so they decided instead of just throwing them away that they would make snowflakes. And I thought they were so beautiful and unique out of the brown lunch sacks. So we decided to give those to you as a special present. So enjoy them.
So Baranoff is buzzing with excitement. We have a great video for you. Hopefully you guys can see it. Do you guys see it behind me? Well, go ahead and watch it. Kids are so excited to see snow. There was an overwhelming trend with students predicting that the groundhog would see a shadow, which means 6 more weeks of winter. And guess what? They were right. He saw his shadow, and so that means more winter, more snow. They were excited, and their prediction skills were great. But back to Baranoff. We have a lot going on. We just finished our winter assessments. We did both map growth and DIBELS in kindergarten and first grade. And we use these as our universal screeners to help our teachers with their instruction and to use data to make sure all students are making growth. We don't want to lose any students, so we use these universal screeners in both academics and social emotional learning. And as you can see, we started ukuleles in our schools. Maybe I just shouldn't talk. We had the Science Center come in, and they were a total hit. Kindergarten just finished their unit of study on mammals. Kindergarten is putting letters together to learn to read. Mr. Hull reading library books and hula hooping. So down the kindergarten wing, our students are putting sounds together to read and write. They're learning to count to 100. They're adding and subtracting. And they just finished a unit of study on mammals. In first grade, they're learning to read, write, multi-syllable words, and adding and subtracting through 100 and counting to 120. We're starting our Dr. Seuss readathon. It'll be starting February 16th. And last year, it felt like our first graders read 1 trillion books during our readathon. So it was great, and I know we had a lot of fun during that. The ukuleles are back, as you can see, and I just want to thank our amazing, talented staff who pulled together to meet the needs of all of our students. Do you guys have any questions? No questions? How were those kids so cute?
What was the bear that you were holding? And I think it was Caitlin in the picture holding.
Oh, that's Buddy the bear.
Yeah.
That's one of our school mascots. We have 2, the grand prize winners for that week get to take it to their classroom for the week. So it gets a lot of use. It looks a little ragged by the end of the year, but we fluff it up.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right, so moving on to item number 10, reports and presentations. We have Janet Clark. Janet is, she is, presenting on the aquaculture science knowledge, and she is from the Sitka Sound Science Center. So come on up.
Do you want to turn yours on too?
Yep.
I am Janet Clark. I'm the Education Director at the Sitka Sound Science Center. And I'm here with Sarah Toby, who is our Science Education and Community Coordinator. And next to her, Stacy Golden, Sitka High School Science Teacher. And I want to thank the board, first of all, for everything you do, all the work you do to make sure that our kids are in school and that we have the chance to get to see them in person. That is the best thing about the fact that about the program we're about to talk about, having our kids come to us in person. The Science Center is booming with education and with research projects and with new things happening in both the aquarium and the hatchery. But tonight, what I'd like to talk about is a program, a remarkable program called the Aquaculture Science Knowledge, which we call ASK. And Chris, by the way, if you can go back to the first slide. And so Lisa Bush, our executive director, has a motto from her journalism days. She says this: if you hear about something from 3 different people, then it's a story. Well, in our case, we heard about the concerns of workforce development from 3 important sources, and we decided it needed to be a program. First of all, our teachers, Stacy, Pacific High School teachers, Chola Mole from Mount Edgecombe High School, all said to us, we want to be in the hatchery. Our kids need those kinds of skills. And that was one source. Another source was the university, and the faculty there said, we've got to connect our kids to university programs like fish technology, fisheries, or other STEM fields. And finally, we heard from industry who said, we want the kids in Sitka to be on our workforce. They have skills we need. And we said, okay, this needs a program. And that program is this one, the Aquaculture Science Knowledge program called ASK, which is a 3-year National Science Foundation funded grant that allows students to learn about aquaculture concepts in a way that validates their cultural and rural experience. ASK is built by a collaborative effort from the people on the next slide. And those are listed here. It's built by both the hatchery and education staff at Sitka Sound Science Center. It's built by the teachers from our school, Stacy Golden, Bridget Reynolds, and Chola Mole from MEHS. And it's built by Angie Bowers from the University of Alaska Southeast. All of these people work together to produce the program that transcends the classroom, but also is not just a field trip to our hatchery. The program is 4 distinct but integrated elements on the next slide. The first of them is a course within a course. It's a program in which the first part of experience in the hatchery is done by an introduction or a development of concepts in their classroom, accompanied by a once-a-week trip to the hatchery to work side by side with staff to apply those skills that have to do with aquaculture concepts. The second part is something we call Futures Connect. There's a pretty high-energy interviewing event in which students met with representatives from natural resource agencies, from industry itself, and from higher education institutions. Third thing is providing the opportunities for mentored research projects at the hatchery or with Angie at the university or with other mentors in the field of fisheries and aquaculture. And finally, the last part is a really important piece, paid internships for 2 high school graduates during the summer. These four elements of the program are critical to providing a pathway into education or post-secondary work. We've had an absolutely uniquely successful semester with really dynamic and engaged students. And to summarize the high points of this, I'd like to turn over the mic to both Sarah and Stacy.
Yes, so we are so excited that in the fall semester we were having the high school students from Mrs. Golden's class from Sitka High and from Pacific High as well, coming to the Science Center once a week. And you can move on to the next slide. So this totaled to about 30 students coming to our hatchery once a week. And as you can see, we went into the classroom as well. And these 30 students came from a multitude of backgrounds, including students who are thinking about college as their next step, and students who maybe are thinking about getting jobs right after graduating high school. And we have already been able to gather data about the course within the course section of the grant, and I'm really happy to announce that 100% of our students are reporting that they're excited to come to the Science Center every week. And so to us, that indicates that these students are comfortable in the science institution, and they are have built trusted relationships with our crew in the hatchery, which is really great to see. One of the other anecdotes I want to share is that a lot of the students told us that they were proud that they learned how to extract otoliths from the salmon heads. So those are the tiny ear bones that takes a really delicate hand to extract. Thinking about Futures Connect, which we hosted in December, we had 14 representatives from across Southeast, including people who had to fly in for this event. And I'm really proud of our students because every single one who came prepared a resume. And to us, the resume building process was a chance to work on that affirmation of life and work experience. So working with the students to list out their skills not only included the skills they learned in the hatchery, but skills that they have worked on and built throughout their entire lives, from living in Sitka and having subsistence lifestyles or working with their families on fishing boats. And those are the skills that we know set them apart from students from the lower 48 or from other areas. So that was really great to see. Looking forward, we already have a student beginning a mentored research project, and we have students applying for the paid internships this summer. So we're really excited about another 2 years of this ASK grant.
We would love to field questions. And Stacy, at any point, if you'd like to jump in, please do.
Thank you very much for your very well-prepared presentation. It definitely sounds like a great opportunity for our young people. Since you are talking about Alaska's natural resources, I wanted to ask, what are you doing, if anything, to integrate the traditional knowledge of the animals that you are working with and the area that you are working on?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's something that we're really actively thinking about and preparing for. I think one of the things we try to do with this grant and with the program is, build on what the students have already learned. So a lot of students have that knowledge. And since, we're not cultural educators, I think we, on some level, ask the students to, share with their peers, and we're working on building that side of the program up. So I would love any suggestions you have, and yeah, that's definitely something we're really actively working towards. Thank you.
I don't have a question because I feel like I know so much about this program because my daughter's in it and she loves Miss Golden and she comes home every day talking about the things that she did. And what was that, your thing called? Like, I heard about that. So no, it's great. I honestly didn't realize it was part of this grant program, so it was really great to connect the two. But yeah, I hear from her every day, and it's an amazing program and she loves it. So thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you.
And thank you for your report tonight. That was great.
Thank you for giving us the time.
Yeah. All right, the next item is introduction to the FY23 budget projections, and I'll pass this on to Superintendent Hauser for that.
All right, thank you very much. We've got a presentation that's getting loaded up right now, but we are starting to enter into the budgeting time of the year, and so this presentation is really just an introduction to the FY23 projected budget development, and so I'll go through, highlight a couple of points. Next slide, please. So as we go back and we look at who we are as SSD, right now we are about 1,130 students. I'll talk a little bit about enrollment. We're down a little bit to 1,127. I'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes though. 30% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. You see a breakdown of demographics, 49% Caucasian, 25% Alaska Native American Indian, 10% two or more races, 9% Asian Pacific Islander, 5% Hispanic, and 0.7% African American. We have approximately 200 staff, a little over that. Just hot off the presses, our graduation rates for a four-year graduation rate is 89.4%, 5 years, 90 plus, and we have our dropout rates. This is just new information. I did want to highlight, though, a couple pieces about the graduation rate. You know, the graduation rate for last year, the 2020-2021 school year, was 89.4%. It's always important to note that this number includes students who have left SSD before their cohort, so the students that they might have been in when they were freshmen or in 8th grade or in 4th grade, before their scheduled graduation, and did not notify the district that they were withdrawing. It's also important that students leaving school, they left for unknown reasons without a formal request for transfer of records, transfer to a non-district sponsored homeschool program, and transfer to an educational program that does not terminate in a regular diploma. And so while that number of 89.4 degrees for a four-year graduation rate, it's important to remember that, you know, when we look at the graduation rate, for example, Sitka High School, you will see that graduation rate later is in the high 90s. And so as students leave throughout their career, starting from elementary through high school, if they don't exit, they move out of state and we don't get that information, that does impact the graduation rate because they are considered a dropout, even though they technically might have left a few years before they even made it to their 12th grade. And so I just wanted to highlight that as we look through, because you'll see later on in a different presentation about our graduation rates. We have 4 schools, 1 alternative high school and a homeschool program, and of course 86,000 residents. We're 75% of people elected to represent Sitkans on tribal council, school board, city assembly, and in the state legislature where SSE graduates. So in preparation for the budget development process, we started with looking at revenue assumptions. In projecting the enrollment, the district is projecting for next school year for FY23, 1,084 students with an additional 40 intensive needs students. These numbers are separated because of the different multiplier in the foundation formula. So we are combined projecting 1,124 students enrolling in SSD next year. In addition, we are looking at 48 projected REACH students. REACH, when it comes to the foundation formula, only counts for 90% of the overall funding for students if they're a homeschool program. We are also looking at and then making the assumption that our base student allocation, the BSA, is going to continue to be flat funded as it has been since 2017 at $5,930. We are also looking at city appropriations funded to the cap, as well as close to flat city funding for in-kind and major maintenance. In addition, we are planning on impact aid, and we are looking at E-rate remaining the same, as well as receiving Secure Rural Schools budgeted estimate at $210,000. As you can see in this graph, SSE has had a steady enrollment decline since 2014. While we believe our enrollment to be stabilizing, we are projecting a slight drop, just 7 students in enrollment for next school year. This chart shows the historical per pupil expenditures. Even with enrollment numbers decreasing over time, per pupil expenses are increasing over time due to flat funding, which represents a loss to the district because of increased fixed costs and inflation. For example, custodial services, transportation, and insurance costs continue to go up while funding from the state remains the same. And again, I said this already, but I'll remind everyone, BSA has been flat funded from 2017, and we are making the assumption that it will continue to be funded at $5,930 for fiscal year 23. Here you can see the decrease in students and teachers since 2018. 2 FTE, and just to kind of point out, we are projecting a 2 FTE increase next year, and that is because we had a commitment last year using CARES money to fund 2 positions, and the commitment was just for 1 year, and with an understanding that it would go back into the general fund budget for the FY23 school year. And so that's why you see an increase, as well as since 2018, there has been a decrease of 133 students. Just a quick slide that shows the percentage of certificated and classified staff. You can see that certificated staff represent 60% of our employees and classified staff represent 38%. So this slide walks us through the process of determining the adjusted average daily membership for the state foundation formula. The state foundation formula is a series of factors and multipliers that provide the district with the final number used to calculate the amount of basic need funding from the state. The final adjusted ADM is then multiplied by the base student allocation, the BSA, which is $5,930. It's important to note, as I've said before, that BSA has not increased since 2017. So I'm going to kind of walk through the steps. It's actually a pretty complicated process, but once you kind of have the general outline of how it works, it kind of makes sense. So step 1, we start with our projected enrollment number of 1,084.35 and apply the school size factor. Now, I did talk about the enrollment being 1,124. The intensive needs students are not calculated in this initial number because they are and get a special needs factor multiplier later on in the foundation formula steps. So we take that number, the size of the school, and we take the number of students, and then we apply the school size factor. The size of a school adjusts the ADM, so smaller schools are a higher adjustment than larger ones, and ultimately this comes down to the economy of scale. So this year, as you can see, there's a pretty clear step 1 through 6, but down below you see a step 1A. So step 1A is what is called the hold harmless provision. It applies to those districts experiencing a reduction in enrollment. And this happened back in 2020 for a number of districts because of COVID and students leaving schools to stay at home, or families having to move to go stay with other family members. And a number of districts around the state experienced a drop in enrollment numbers. So the hold harmless was put in place to help sustain the foundation formula and funding for the schools through this drop in enrollment numbers. And really what it did, it was a 3-year process. The first year was 75%, second year is 50%, and the final year, year 3, which we are in currently, is a multiplier of 25%. And so really what that is the district is currently, like I said, in the 3rd year, and we receive 25% of the difference in enrollment between the FY20 and FY23 numbers. And so they take that difference and apply that to the number. And so ultimately what that gives us is an additional 24.84 students. Next, as we go through, we look at the district cost factor. So the district cost factor for Sitka is a multiplier of 19.5%. And so as we go through and we take that number of students, that adjusted number, that 1399.68, we multiply that by 19%, and that gives us the next number. And so you'll see as we work through this how the adjusted ADM kind of goes through. We do then go to the special needs factor. So that is another multiplier. It's an additional 20%. Then we take that number, and the numbers just continue to go through the process, and we get to the CTE factor, which again is another multiplier of a 1.5%, to step 5, which is the intensive needs factor. And I talked about this a little earlier. The intensive need factor, we have 40 students that are have the intensive needs that will fall under the intensive needs factor. And ultimately, for those 40 students, that in the foundation formula gets multiplied by 13. So that's an additional 520 students that are added at the end of step 5 for the special needs factor. And then step 6, the correspondence factor, I talked about this a little bit earlier. We have 48 students right now that we're projecting for correspondence for the Reach Homeschool program. Those students are not considered, at full 1.0 funding. It's actually a 0.9. And so those 48 students, when you multiply them by 0.9, total a 43.2 increase, which gives us an adjusted average daily membership of 2,601 students, 0.22, or 2,601.22 students. So as we take that, and we look at the state foundation formula, so here's the FY23 projected state and local revenues for SSD. So we start with the adjusted average daily membership from the last slide, which is 2,601.22 students, and we work our way through. And you can kind of see how all of this comes in play. So you take that, the district adjusted ADM, you multiply that by 5,930, which is the base student allocation. You look at, that gives us our basic need, which is $15,425,205. As you look at property taxes and what the required, through Alaska statute, required local effort towards education, that comes out to be $4,433,868. The state does go through and reduce for federal impact aid, and that gives us a state foundation revenue of $10,955,505. In that, they do add a state quality of schools grant, which brings that total to $10,997,124. As you go down and you look at the required local contributions, and then you take, when the state, through the foundation formula, figures out the maximum local contributions, they take that required local contributions and then they do a 23% of basic need plus quality schools, and that gives us $3,547,797. You add the required local contributions with the additional potential for local contributions, and that gives us the maximum local contribution.
Would you mind popping back to one more?
State foundation formula, or one more?
No, just I was wondering if you could define for everybody what certified staff is versus.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So certified staff or certificated staff are your teachers and your administrators, and classified staff are your paraprofessionals, your secretaries, your clerical staff as well. No worries. One more slide, please, Chris. Yeah. So as we look at how SSD is funded, SSD is funded by 3 primary sources: local, which equates to 39%, state, which is 59%, and federal, which is 2%. When you look at total revenues, that comes to $20,535,865. That does not include district use of fund balance or any grant funding. So this is just based on the fund, how we're funded through, the local, state, and federal sources. You can see an overview of the revenues for the last 4 years and the projected FY23 revenues. While the city appropriations increased about $424,000, funding from the state decreased by almost $900,000. Next slide, please. As we move from the revenues, we turn our attention to the FY23 expenditures, projected expenditures. In determining the projected 23 expenditures, we use the following assumptions. Healthcare or health insurance increase of 5%, a 3% increase to property liability insurance. All other expenditures remain the same, so salary, staffing, utilities, and costs associated with student activity travel and the pool will need to be funded out of general funding operations at this time. We're working from the assumption that we will not get any additional funding from the city for non-instructional costs like the student activity travel and pool operations. With the assumptions from the previous slide, we keep all other expenditures the same, and we get the projected expenditures by function for the FY23. The total projected expenditures for FY23 is $22,617,290, which includes PERS and TERS on behalf. Next slide, please. This chart shows the expenditures by object code and what percentages of the budget those expenditures represent. As you can see, salaries and benefits make up 83% of our expenditures. And then we have utilities, which is 6%, other purchase services 5%, professional technical 3%, and supplies are 3%. This does not include on behalf, and again, that total expenditure is $21,835,214. So if you take the projected revenue and subtract the projected expenditures, what we're left with is a projected deficit of $2,081,425 for the FY23. A couple items I think it's important to keep in mind when considering the projected deficit. We are expecting enrollment to remain steady. Salaries and benefits uncertainties do exist due to ongoing collective bargaining with 2 employee bargaining groups. We are expecting science curriculum expenses this year in light of the adoption of the new science standards. And then the other thing I think is really important as we go through, it is still very early in the budgeting process. Cuts will need to occur in conjunction with the use of fund balance. It's also important to note that the fund balance alone cannot sustain a $2 million deficit between projected revenues and projected expenses. So over the next 3 months, we'll have multiple hearings and work sessions in the budget development process to seek community and staff input. Here is a list right now of the dates that we're looking at. We will be going to the Assembly tomorrow, having a special meeting with the Assembly. In addition, next week on Monday and Wednesday, we're having staff hearing sessions. You'll see a breakdown of the schedule for staff hearing sessions. We will have an opportunity for all 5 schools to be able to come and talk to the board. And we are having a community hearing session on February 16th, the work session on the 22nd of March. We do have, and we'll talk about the kind of ongoing budgeting process of the school board meeting on the 6th of April, and then a work session on the 13th of April, and then a final hearing and adoption at April 20th. Per Alaska statute, a budget has to go to the Assembly before May 1st. Just as a reference, next slide please. Just as a reference, previous year's budget and audits are available online. You can go to our website and under the district tab, select district office documents, budgets and audits, and you can find all of the budgets and audits since 2019 are listed on our website. And with that, that concludes the introduction to the FY23 projected budget. Are there any questions? It's a lot of information.
We have to like trick him with some question.
You don't actually, that's okay.
No, that was a good presentation and very, I mean, it sounds like it's pretty self-explanatory because there's no questions. So, and like you said, we'll be meeting a lot over the next 2 months and going over these numbers and figuring out where to cut $2 million out of our budget. So we, for those that don't know, we are required by law to pass a balanced budget. So we have to figure out either, well, we can't really figure out additional revenues because there's no other way for us to generate revenue, but we'll have to figure out how to close those expenditures. So thank you. All right, moving on to board member reports. Let's start with you over here, Paul.
First?
Yeah.
Let's see, not a whole lot to report. Glad the roads are a little clearer. It was a struggle, but definitely a thanks to all the bus staff and all the patient staff and folks dropping off and picking up because it was a little wild. I got to stop by the city and say thanks to the crew for fixing the water line that shut down Blatchley a couple weeks ago. I'm glad that we've got a great crew and it only shut us down for 1 day, so that's pretty fantastic. I had a lot of good conversations with folks in the community this month. I felt that was good and productive, and looking forward to going to Juneau next week and meeting with some of our legislators. There's There's a lot of education bills this year on the state level, so we try to go and get a little taste of what might be coming and you know, share with them our local experiences and needs. So that's an important part of how those laws are made. So I look forward to participating in that. So thanks everyone for being here tonight.
Yeah, just echo what Paul said about our city crews with the water main. That was great to get that fixed as fast as it was, and for our staff and students for being flexible with that day. And also looking forward to attending my first legislative session next week with Mr. Hauser and Paul. So that'll be informative. And had a really great meeting with our policy committee, specifically zeroing in on the graduation regalia topic. So I think we have some really great direction moving in that. Had some community members, some students on our policy committee, which is me and Blossom, part of that. So really informative conversation. So I look forward to that at future meetings. And that's really all I have. Thank you.
From a home perspective, my oldest daughter is very excited about the Discover Your Potential week coming up, and looking at that and finding more information about how we allow our young students to take a week to broaden their horizons, and other than academics, really excites me as a parent and as a board member. My youngest, she's getting ready for the spelling bee. I'm so happy that we're having a spelling bee. And being the liaison of Sitka High School, I heard that they are busy, and I love hearing that they're busy. I love that there are basketball games going on both sides of the bridge. And, you know, as a parent and as a community member, I love that our kids are in sports at this time. As Mr. Haynes stated, I'm excited about seeing the formation of the policy committee. When we started, we were both new board members, and you know, we have our feet in the mud a little bit more, and we have you, Mr. Hauser, and I have every great faith that the policy committee, as it grows, will have more and more topics that will make our school district a well-rounded district that provides for everyone who attends our schools.
As the newest board member here, I wasn't aware of School Board Appreciation Month, so I do appreciate that. And Ms. Crone, thank you very much for the gifts from the children. That's definitely a very high point of my day here, and also the movie there too. Very, very well done. Thank you. Appreciate that. Other than that, not much more to say. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say a couple quick things. One, thank you to Andrew for running the meeting last month while I took a much-needed vacation. So thank you very much for that. And then also wanted to recognize Paul really quick because our school board is a member of the the Association of Alaska School Boards, AASB, and they host a lot of training and educational opportunities for us as board members. And Paul has earned the Basic Boardsmanship Award for his attendance of these, so he gets a certificate. So congratulations, Paul, on that.
This is a lot of hours sitting in a chair. Thank you.
It is a lot of hours, though, and it's a dedication to what you do. And again, people don't realize how much we do put into this, and we're taking webinars and attending conferences and learning how to be the best board members we possibly can, because there's a lot to it, as you guys are learning. There's a lot of legal ins and outs, and so thank you for your dedication to it and taking it seriously, and that's a huge honor. So thanks, Paul. and that's all I have. So moving on to administrative reports, we've got the budget update, and I'll go ahead and let you just do all three of these together here.
Yes, we'll just go through, you'll see the monthly revenue reports. We're still in the green on that, which is always good. We kind of have talked a lot about budget already. Unless there's any questions on that. We'll go in, I kind of said this already, but our current enrollment is 1,127. We're down a little bit, but we're still holding really pretty well. So, that's a good thing. So, and then any questions on enrollment numbers at all? No?
I did have one on the budget, though.
Okay.
We had tech service listed at negative 121%. I was just wondering if we had moved something out of that fund and it needed to get moved back, or?
I will go through.
Same one as you?
Yeah, I'll have to ask. I'll have to look at that. We'll go through and I'll get an answer for you specifically why that is in that. It's probably just a matter of, as we're going through with some of, some of the technology we've purchased, and we are expecting to get that reimbursement for that technology that we were awarded, that we talked about, I think, at a couple board meetings ago for the new computers. But I'll double check on that. I think that's what it is, but I'll double check on that and get confirmation of that to the board. With that, we're going to move into my superintendent's report. So like all of my updates, I really love to start by showing off what our students and staff have been up to this month. We'll start with Kigushihine, and I just wanted to remind everyone that if you'd like to volunteer at your student's school, please call the school office to set up a time. We are having volunteers in the schools. At Keat, the first grade band students participated in section mini concerts in December. They also had their fourth grade choir concert in mid-January. All the concerts were a huge success. The students welcomed families into the building and into the PAC to watch the concerts. And I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that we actually have concerts starting up again next week. And so if you are not aware that, there's a concert, please check the schedule. So there are concerts starting up. Kigushihine has been having Friday fun wear days this winter, from tropical wear to fancy Fridays. The hallways and classrooms have been full of color and fun. Upcoming Friday fun wear days include Dress Like a Staff Member, which honestly I can't wait to see that one, especially if you, I'm interested to see what Keat does when there was a student that shaved their head at Blatchley to look like one of the staff members there. So that was commitment on that student's part. So, but I'll see how the students at Kigushihine do with that one. And then also one color head to toe day. So I'm excited to see the students at those. After a successful season of Girls on the Run, Kigushihine is looking forward to Boys on the Run. The Boys Run season begins February 28th with recruitment beginning this week. Boys on the Run program is supported in partnership with Sitkans Against Family Violence Youth Program, Youth Advocates of Sitka, STA, and Sitka Counseling. Our students at Kigushihine are also collaborating with Sitka Sound Science Center for their Scientists in the Schools program. At Blatchley, students in Mrs. Williams' class are studying forces. Their challenge was to design and build a vessel capable of protecting an egg from breaking when dropped from a significant height. Like all good scientists, they evaluated all the data, both good and scrambled, and refined their approach and found success. At Pacific High School, the eggs are all in the kitchen, and the students in culinary classes are having a lot of fun. I personally love it when I visit Pacific High School because Mandy is always saying, "Can I get you lunch?" And I really do appreciate that. In addition, they always provide us with cinnamon rolls for our weekly admin team meetings on Thursdays, and that's always a highlight. For semester 2 at Pacific High School, they began with mini sessions that they call the reorientation. This 2-week session focuses on building school culture, exploring our creativity, and strengthening bonds between students, staff, and community partners. These were some of the offerings during the January 6 through 14 reorientation sessions at Pacific High School. They had a school-wide literature groups, picture frame construction. They had some PE times at the Hames Center, and they were also doing guitar instruction and some coding. Semester 2 also brings with it new Friday enrichment classes for students to explore creative interests. These classes are primarily led by community partners such as Sitka Sound Science Center, Sitka Native Education Programs, and Youth Advocates of Sitka, just to name a few. These are the varied offerings during the Friday enrichment classes, from graphic novels to loom beading, and just all sorts of great opportunities for the students. At Sitka High School, it's basketball season, and the pep band is back in full force. Last week, the boys and girls basketball team hosted Mount Edgecombe and Houston High School on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. This week, the boys and girls basketball teams will travel to Mount Edgecombe on Tuesday and host Barrow tonight and Thursday. Last Friday, students from Sitka High School and Blatchley Middle School had an opportunity to hear from Alaska's very first Olympic swimming gold and silver medalist, Lydia Jacoby. Lydia spent an hour telling the story of her journey to the Olympics, inspiring our students to follow their dreams and answering questions from the crowd. She was incredibly gracious with her time, and it was a special day for all of our students. I did want to have a big shout out to Kevin Knox for coordinating this event. This last weekend, Sitka High School hosted the Region 5 Drama Debate and Forensics Tournament, and the Sitka team emerged Region 5 DDF champion. So congratulations goes out to them. Sitka High has won the last 5 state titles for DDF and will be competing for their 6th title later this month, February 17th and 19th. And so I hope all of you band together to roar "Go Wolves" when they go down to, or when they, I believe, go to Anchorage for February 17th to the 19th. There were too many individual awards to list for our team, for the DDF team, but I wanted to highlight some of the team awards that the Sitka High School students received. They received the Sid Wright All Academic Team Award for a combined 3.6 team GPA, Region 5 Drama Champion, the Region 5 Debate Champion, Region 5 Forensics Champion, and the Region 5 Overall Sweepstakes Champion. So it was quite an impressive display for our Sitka High School Drama Debate and Forensics teams. I also wanted to take a moment to recognize Addie Paulson and Darby Osborne. Darby's the one that was pictured in the slide above. On their first place in public forum debate, Addie and Darby also set a record this year with 23 wins, and get this, 0 losses throughout the season, which is an impressive statistic. I had the honor of being one of the judges for the public forum debate. I was so impressed by the level of competition on display and also by the camaraderie the Southeast DDF students had with one another. Our students have experienced or expressed their gratitude over and over again for their return to normal, kind of the return to normalcy and the return to this school year, and that includes being able to get together with their peers and other schools during competitions, athletics, and events like DDF. It takes a lot of work to put something like this together, especially now, so I just wanted to thank everyone who helped out, Sandra, Tyler over at the high school, Rich, and everyone who helped judge, because it did take a lot of community members to volunteer their time to judge the DDF competitions and the debate, so thank you for all that. Now on to other news. The Alaska Department of Education and Early Development has released the 2020-2021 district and school report cards. SSD schools will be emailing families more information on the report cards and how to access them online. You can go to the Department of Education's website and select report cards to the public. You'll see this page when you do that. We also have a link to the 2020-2021 report cards on our website. Note that the Department of Ed states there are limitations to the data because of the continued impact of COVID-19. Next slide, please. Once you navigate to the report card page, select your school or district. You have to select the school district drop down to bring up the list of SSD schools. Once you've selected your school, you will see the school's report card. From there, you can explore the data for the school by selecting tabs on the blue sidebar. We were just talking about Sitka High School, so this is an example of the data that you'll see. This is the attendance, graduation, and dropout rates for Sitka High School. Again, you can see similar data, including statewide assessment information for all schools by selecting one of the blue data tabs off to the left side of the page. You can also compare SSD's data with other districts. The attendance and graduation rates are remarkably high here, while the dropout rate is remarkably low. Finally, I wanted to let everyone know that Policy Online and Board Books, SSD's new online searchable policy manual and online board meeting agenda software is now live. To get access to that, you can go to our website, select the School Board tab, and select Board Packets for Board Books or Board Policies for Policy Online. And I just have a couple of other announcements. February 16th is Elizabeth Paratrovich Day, and that is an early release day. February 18th is Teacher in-Service Day. February 21 is Parent-Teacher Conferences, and on February 25 there is no school. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. That moves us on to item, or did anyone have any questions? Sorry. Okay. On to item 13A, new business, COVID-19 mitigation plan. And before we open it up for public comment, I just want to ask Superintendent Hauser to give us an update of where we are currently with our COVID mitigation plan, just in case that answers any questions that anybody may have in advance. So if you want to do that, and then we will open it up for public comment.
Yeah, I can go through and just kind of do a run through of COVID-19 update and mitigations. So the Sitka School District, next slide please. The Sitka School District team, Smart Start teams comprised of parents, community members, and staff whose mitigation plans SSD had been following for the last 2 years, met recently at their schools. We also had a district-wide meeting with all teams. Teams reviewed and updated our return to school testing and travel procedures in light of the new CDC guidelines. These guidelines shortened isolation for people with COVID-19 from 10 days to 5, providing fever and symptoms resolved, with 5 additional days of mask wearing. SSD offers testing on day 6 prior to the return to school from isolation. We also have N95 masks available. SSD was way ahead in the availability of rapid antigen testing in our district. We were also way ahead in the use of testing to reduce quarantines for those exposed to COVID-19, so we could keep students in the classroom. The Smart Start team also updated those test to stay protocols so that with the negative test results on day 1, 3, and 5, no quarantine after exposure to COVID-19 is required. For those who choose not to test to stay, quarantine is reduced from 10 days to 5 with 5 additional days of mask wearing. As I've said before, SSD has been slowly rolling back mitigations all year, and you see that in the updated return to school protocols. The teams and I also revised with the effort to simplify and consolidate. For example, SSD's travel guidelines are now only 2 bullet points instead of a full page like last year's, and are included on the return to school documents. We recommend testing following travel on day 1 and 5. A COVID-19 vaccine is not required in SSD. You can see from some of my communications quoted here why the Sitka Sentinel calls this my oft-repeated phrase. So I just wanted to make sure that I just said again that we are not requiring a COVID-19 vaccine in the Sitka School District. Going into masks all year long, there has been one consistent, unequivocal message from SSD. Masks are coming off. It's not a question of if, but when. The school board expressed this message in a letter to the editor to the Sentinel on December 17th. Quote, "The Sitka School District has always had an off-ramp for mitigations built into our plans, including the use of masks. Masks were never intended to be worn indefinitely. They have simply been a short-term solution to ensure that we cover schools open and have the necessary staff to do so. While we're looking at transitioning to mask optional in January, this is subject to not being in high alert levels. While we're in the high alert levels required by the city and borough of Sitka Ordinance 2021-32, which requires the use of face coverings in indoor settings," end quote. I've said exactly the same thing. Masks aren't forever. Next slide, yeah. Masks aren't forever. Way back on November 29th, I announced a goal of transitioning to mask optional shortly after winter break. But then Omicron hit and has delayed our plans. Our Smart Start teams have talked about their transition to mask optional on the other side of this current surge, which I also relayed to families in 2 emails last month. So the question is not if we're going to transition to mask optional, but when. When we look at the question of when, this is where we are right now. You see the actual count of COVID-19 cases in SSD and Sitka, both over 7 days and daily. You also see that adjusted for the standard per 100,000 scale that allows comparisons amongst communities. The red numbers mean that at those days we are in the high alert level and face coverings are required indoors in public settings or communal spaces by city and borough Sitka ordinance. Sitka has only been out of the high alert level for 8 school days this entire school year. So masks were required by city and borough ordinance and SSD this entire school year except for 8 days. The number I circled is the highest ever recorded case count in 1 day in Sitka. That happened just 1 week ago. To put the size of current spike in perspective, on November 30th, we had 10 COVID cases in the last 7 days in Sitka. Now we have 181. Raven Radio reported recently that around 500 new COVID cases have been reported in the month of January alone. That exceeds the number of cases reported in July, which was previously a record-breaking month for Sitka with just over 400 cases reported. We currently have 19 active COVID-19 cases connected to our schools. This is up from 0 during my last update. I said then that I think we need to prepare ourselves, that we're going to see the numbers of cases associated with our schools climb, but we're going to do everything we can to keep our schools open and all activities going. That's what we have been doing. I know people are talking about when the pandemic becomes endemic, and I thought this comment from Dr. Nahid Badilia, an infectious disease specialist, is helpful. She writes, quote, "To figure out if we have reached endemicity with a disease, we have to answer the question, can our society function if the current moment became status quo? The surge of cases leading to worker shortages and still overwhelmed hospitals tells us for COVID the answer currently is no," end quote. This chart shows pandemic-related disruptions to in-person learning over the school year. Those numbers are coming down, but have been at record high levels too, with over 7,000 disruptions in schools the week of January 10th alone. What schools have been experiencing, like other organizations, including staff-related issues. With people out sick, schools don't have enough staff and can't stay open. In Alaska and in Sitka, there are critically low levels of substitute teachers to fill in when people are out sick. I'm happy to report that we are on a much firmer footing in SSD with regards to staffing right now than last month. But it is important to remember that we live on an island, but we don't live in an alternative reality. Everything that is happening at schools around the world and around the nation can happen here in Sitka too. We have not simply been lucky. Our layered mitigations informed by local physicians' expertise have worked to keep our schools open when others around us have closed. We're going to continue to keep parents updated on the realities of the situation. Here's just right now kind of the current masking ordinance and local state guidance. As I mentioned before, we're still in high alert level in Sitka, and face coverings are required indoors in public settings or communal spaces at this alert level by city and borough of Sitka ordinance. We have only been out of the high alert level for 8 days, as I stated earlier, so for the entire school years, except for 8 days, face coverings have been required per city and borough ordinance. Sitka Unified Command also strongly encourages face coverings and includes the following language in its most recent news release, quote, "Due to the high alert level in Sitka, Sitka Unified Command recommends continued mitigations, face coverings strongly encouraged for individuals regardless of vaccination status." When asked about comments made at the last Sitka School Board meeting, Dr. Joel McLaughlin, Alaska's chief epidemiologist, stated, quote, "In terms of the general recommendation that we've always provided, myself included, with respect to masks and face coverings, is they're not perfect, but they are a helpful tool in helping decrease the risk of transmission of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, whether it's that form of Omicron or any of the other variants that we've seen so far," end quote. The American Academy of Pediatrics, which represents nearly 70,000 pediatricians, currently recommends universal masking in schools. They state in-school transmission has been observed more often in school districts that did not enact mask requirements. The American Lung Association states masks are safe and effective to prevent COVID-19 spread for all kids over 2. In SSD, we have surgical masks and N95 masks available daily at our doors. Just really fast, a couple pieces to guidance right now recommends face coverings, and Sitka ordinance requires them at our current alert level, but let's look ahead just a matter of weeks. This graph is from the University of Washington Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, and this is their most recent projection for COVID-19 cases in Alaska. They update these every 2 weeks. So today, we're just at the height of the surge, but look ahead just a few weeks and our cases drop considerably. I did circle February 2nd and March 2nd just to show the projected drop in cases between those dates. This is their projections for hospital resource use, both all beds needed and ICU beds needed. Hospitalizations lag behind cases, so they project we haven't quite hit the peak for in this state in Alaska. But again, look how much the situation improves in just a couple of weeks in their projections. So that's where we are right now. Data suggests we're still right in the middle of this surge with improvements just around the corner. And so the question we started with is not if SSD is going to transition from masks, and that has been unequivocally communicated since August, but when. And this, really the question is this right now really the point at which transition should be made, especially when the line on this graph and the number of people associated with our schools who have COVID-19 might be very different in just a matter of weeks on the other side of this surge. In the meantime, our students are smiling. Next slide, Leanne. Are smiling, laughing, learning, and having fun at school. So we hear a lot from people in email that are talking about, you know, the fact that schools are still going on and learning is taking place and activities are happening, and students are happy to still be able to participate and have fun in that. And that is a kind of summary of kind of where we're at right now with our COVID mitigations in SSD.
All right, thank you very much. So I will open it up to public comment. I just want to point out, same parameters apply as persons to be heard. We'll have a timer for 3 minutes per person, and all comments must be respectful, and there cannot be any charges or complaints against any specific employee. So just keep that in mind, please. So if there's any public comment. I'm sorry? Staff doesn't have any questions. We're opening it up for public comment, and then we will open it up for board comment after that, but it's public comment portion of the meeting, of the agenda item.
Hello again. I'll restate my name. I'm Donald Wayne Artson II. I am a student from PHS and hear about the masks. Now, when I look around me in school, I see all my peers. None of them really look happy with these masks on. And, you know, on these masks they give us when we enter school, respectfully, on the back of these boxes, some in bold letters just don't, they say, not for medical use. And, you know, students in school, they're all jittery all day, and it's harder for them to concentrate. Hell, I've like talked to these kids. They're my friends, and I care for my friends. And I've had trouble making friends because the absolute separation we face. And we take a breath, take off our masks. We can go outside, but that'd disrupt our learning, wouldn't it? And we get a whole public health service speech from a staff member every time we take it off for a breath. And so it's just destructive to our learning. We don't form as many bonds with our staff and teachers with these masks on. We can't even read facial expressions. How do we know if we're doing a good job in school? And it's just destructive to our learning, as I said. That's mine.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Hi there. My name is Aurora Losi. I'm a paraprofessional at Keat Gushaheen. I have 2 children in the school district. I think there's different perspectives here. Obviously, there's some kids that might not seem as affected, but first and foremost, I don't want any adult talking for my children. I don't want anyone up here telling you guys that my children are not affected, that they're okay. It's not comfort, it's conditioning. Only you, as a parent, can say how it's affecting your children. And I see it every day. I welcome the children every day. I have done for 3 years. I'm very passionate about this, and I've seen it affect them very detrimentally. This morning, a child comes in. I welcome them without a smile because I can't. That is one of my things I can do for children. I'm a very happy person if you know me. And I like to bring happiness into a child's day by a huge smile and a warm welcome. I can no longer do that. A child comes in this morning, he says to me, I said, hey, how's it going? Oh, it's okay. My mom told me to be positive no matter what. I said, yeah, bud, let's have a good day. The only thing I can be positive of is that this school year is bad. I'm sorry if you cannot see how it affects these kids, but I do on a daily basis. Let's talk about spirit and education. I, as a parent, protect my kids. I feed them healthy. I keep them healthy. They exercise. That is my choice. I should have that in school now, too. This is not day one. This is almost 3 years later. My spirit has been broken at school. I can guarantee you there's children whose spirits have been broken, too. This is not the only child that said that to me. They come in, they don't smile at me, they don't say hello like they used to. It's time to wake up and realize their spirits are being broken.
Yeah, I get that timer. All right. Jason Anderson. The 5th step in the Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program is to admit to God, to ourselves, and to one another human being the exact same nature of our wrongs, the exact nature of our wrongs. It is wrong to mask a child. It is damaging. It is child abuse. When will you admit this to yourselves and one another? Alaska State Statute, Title 47, Chapter 17, Section 290, defines child abuse or neglect as physical injury or neglect, mental injury, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, or maltreatment of a child under the age of 18 by a person under circumstances that indicate the child's health or welfare is harmed or threatened thereby. In this paragraph, mental injury means an injury to the emotional well-being or intellectual or psychological capacity of a child as evidenced by an observable and substantial impairment in the child's ability to function. The evidence is clear. COVID mitigation strategies have resulted in a wave of mental health issues for children, including depression, anxiety, and suicide. Thus, COVID mitigation strategies, including compulsory masking of kids, is child abuse. Each of you took a following oath. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Alaska, and that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially discharge my duties as a school board member to the best of my ability. You all have broken your oath and continue to do so every day that the children are forced to be masked, tested while healthy, threatened with school closure, or by being blamed or shamed for getting sick. Many concerned parents and citizens have either testified or written letters to you in support of choice. I'm not asking for you to force others not to wear a mask. I'm simply asking you again to make it our choice not to abuse our children. If a parent wants to suffocate their child and cause oxygen deprivation, causing brain damage, a wide range of lifelong effects, that's their parental right. And only by today's standards would this be deemed acceptable by some. America. But district-sponsored abuse is illegal, and more than that, it's morally wrong. But in the age of COVID, apparently morals don't matter. Child abuse has become the norm because adults are scared. The same adults that have unlimited access and opportunity to various PPEs and the vaccine for which they worship. Why do you allow zealots to hold our children hostage? Are you to be grouped with them? Those of us that believe firmly in the science are now told that we can stay home if we want our opt-out. That's not a realistic option for most. These parents are left with but one choice: to let the district continue to abuse their child with scientifically indefensible mask mandates. Recently, you've tightened up your masking guidelines and have ramped up testing. For what? A slap to the face? You've all rebreathed your exhaled waste for far too long, causing lack of oxygen to your blood, hypoxia, which kills brain cells, cerebral hypoxia. This is science. Ditch the masks, stop the abuse, and follow your oath.
I had a question for people that couldn't make it here tonight first, if I could ask. Several people couldn't make it here tonight for various reasons. They emailed in their testimony and they just asked if, will that be recorded to the record somewhere?
It will be, I don't know if it's some of the emails that we've already received, but if people want it to be attached to our board, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, if they want it to be attached to our board agenda, they can say so and it gets attached, correct?
For this meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
For this meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So it will become a part of the agenda for the meeting.
Okay.
If I receive it today?
Or the minutes, I meant, yes.
Thank you.
Receive, yeah.
My name is Wayne Winther. I have some concerns surrounding the ARP's interim final requirements. For those of you listening to that do not know what that is, simply put, it is a requirement by the government for the state education agency, SCA, and the local education agency, LEA, to receive federal government funds related to the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been stated in at least one email that there were no strings attached to the funds that Sitka Schools had applied for. In the ARP, it is mentioned no less than 3 times, starting on page 6. First requirement, that an LEA's plan must include how it will maintain health and safety, and then it goes on to state CDC safety recommendations, including universal and correct wearing of masks. The definitions of no strings attached is defined as having no special conditions, restrictions, obligations, or arrangements that must be met. Apparently, there are strings attached, as nothing in life is free. Upon looking further into the ARP's requirements, I know some other issues that seem to stand out. Second requirement further clarifies that the plan must describe how the LEA will ensure the continuity of services to address academic needs of students and staff social, emotional, mental health, and other needs, which may include health and food services. I feel children's overall health, emotional, and mental health have not been addressed. Headaches, facial rashes, irritability, and loss of focus, to name a few. I believe this is in a direct conflict with the ARP funding requirements. Children's health, and well-being have been set aside and not addressed. Also noted on the top of page 8, in LEA must regularly but no less frequently meet every 6 months, which means they can meet more frequently, determine whether revisions are necessary, and in making any revisions, the LEA must seek public input and take into account. The statement includes the opening of the schools, continuity of service. So now that the school had been open, this pertains during the continuity of service. I don't feel any of our input has been taken into account. There's been many community members and parents speaking at the school board meetings, writing emails, and providing scientific studies and data about how harmful masks are to the children, how ineffective they are for their intended purpose. With this information I pulled from the interim final requirements, I feel the board has not fully satisfied its requirements to the children of the schools, nor the community members and parents reaching out. It is our children that made these schools eligible for the funding, and they are being neglected and abused. What troubles me the most in the ARP interim final requirements, if I read this correctly, is these requirements are in effect until the program ends in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name's Dahl Arnson. I'm a parent of Donnie Arnson, who's a student at Pacific High. Our home was demolished and we were displaced, and we looked at communities here in Southeast Alaska. We're from Prince of Wales, and we're like, Sitka sounds nice. What a nice sense of community. And I can look around this room and see a lot of love and care in this community for the children. And I recognize that each one of you are volunteering your time. I value that. I do a lot of philanthropy and volunteerism myself. However, you know, I'm hearing land acknowledgement, which is great, and I'm hearing school board acknowledgement. Well, today I'm going to be here and I'm acknowledging how precious, how sacred, how irreplaceable each and every child in this community, the state of Alaska, all of the United States of America, the greatest country on this planet, and we need to lead by example. And we're not doing a very good job. I feel terrible when I send my son to school. I have to live with this relationship. It's like being in an abusive relationship. If you've ever been in an abusive relationship, the abuser tells you, it's going to get better, don't leave. Come on, baby, you know, or whatever. Well, I'm hearing this from this mitigation plan. It's going to get better. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Can't hold on anymore. My child has health issues that I'm not going to disclose here, but it makes it difficult for him to read expressions, to make friends, to function in a world where he can't see the expression of his teacher and build those relationships. What kind of man will he be one day? What kind of leader will he be when we need leadership? People say often, what kind of earth are we going to leave our children? Well, I want to know what kind of children we're going to leave this earth at this point, because we're busting them, we're hurting them, we're breaking them down. We're treating them like second-class citizens. What's the optics look like when all the cruise ships show up and we're all business and everything's as usual whenever they've been suppressed? COVID's killed no children in the state of Alaska, but 118 have died by their own hand. It's suicide. Alaska has one of the highest suicide rates. What's this doing to our children? No, teachers aren't saying, how's your studies? How are things going? No, we're hearing PSAs. Pull up your mask, step aside, don't stand so close to each other. Did you touch that? Did you wash your hands? That is not, he could get that from me at home, you know? And I appreciate all the effort everybody's put in there, but it comes to a point where we say, have we done enough? What are we gonna do? Are we gonna wait until a child in our community dies? And we all have to live with that. And I don't want to live with that. And none of you want to live with that. That's not something that we want on our conscience. Let's lead by example. Let's show strength and unity in our community. We put educators and first line workers ahead of everybody else when the vaccinations rolled out. We have masked up children.
I'm going to go ahead and get you off there. Thank you for your comment.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Addix, and I just want to follow up with her point of when. Mr. Hauser says we're going to take the masks off when it's time. Well, it's been 2 years, and at the very beginning, no one knew what COVID was. Fine. COVID is a virus. COVID is never going to go away. There will never be a when to take them off. Under the theory of if there's 9 cases in this town is on high. Yes, we have 200 now, but if we have 9, we're still on high. So I don't think when is ever going to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Sorry about the confusion earlier. I was a misunderstanding on my part. I apologize. My name is Anna Hansen, and I have some strong words because I think it has to do with our children, and I think we can all agree that there is nothing more precious in this world than our kids. So with that being said, when things go wrong, we are going to hold you guys and this committee responsible for damaging our children with these unscientific strategies, including worthless and dangerous practice of masking children. In August 2021, you were emailed mask-related references for research spanning decades, research that consistently came to the same conclusion: masks don't work against viruses. We hold you responsible for all the damage caused by the continued enforcement of our anti-scientific mask policy. We hold you responsible for the lifelong psychological trauma that you have caused by teaching children that human breath is dangerous. We hold you responsible for the increased rates of anxiety, depression, suicide, OCD, fear, anger, shame, and hatred that are playing out in our children's lives as a direct result from masking. We hold you responsible for the developmental delays caused by your mask mandate, including language acquisition, spoken language clarity, facial muscle development caused by decreased and hampered speech, and the reduced ability to recognize and respond to facial cues, which is a huge one, especially for the younger kids. The masking of children has resulted and will continue to result in several known and unknown medical consequences. Some of these are brain damage caused by excess carbon dioxide and decreased oxygen levels, decreased oral hygiene, and increased dental problems caused by mask mouth, viral and bacterial illnesses caused by the rebreathing of waste collected on masks, especially the masks of younger children, cancers and other illnesses caused by the inhalation of carcinogenic mask materials, impaired immune systems, rendering children more susceptible to a wide range of illnesses. We hold you guys responsible for all these medical issues because you are responsible for making this go away and changing this. We hold you responsible for fostering an environment in which misinformed teachers are emboldened and empowered to bully, harass, abuse, punish, and grade children based upon a nonsensical mask compliance issue. We hold you responsible for burdening children with a cruel threat of virtual school if they take off their masks. We hold you responsible for teaching children that most adults can't be trusted, for fostering an environment where informed students are afraid to speak truth. We hold
I'm going to go ahead and cut you off there. Sorry, it's been the 3 minutes.
I'm almost done. For not assuming responsibility for passing the buck, for blaming former superintendent and assembly, Smart Start team, medical authorities, and public health officials, etc. Finally, your strategies, including the mask of children, have resulted in measurable decrease and delays academic performances for some children. If you fail to make these things right, then we stand as witnesses to hold you accountable, because we've got to stop this.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
My name is Haley Dugan, and I'm a junior at Sitka High School. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm tired of wearing a mask to school every day. It makes me feel lightheaded. It makes me have a stuffy nose, and it certainly is not preventing the spread of COVID. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Jeremy Twaddle. I'm a father of 2 students in Sitka School District. So I want to thank the board here and Mr. Hauser for that amazing math funding presentation. It was very complicated, very in-depth. The statistics were all over the board. They were amazing to see how all the funding comes together. It's a very, very complicated mathematical problem. So I'm impressed that the board and the school system can put that type of effort into figuring out funding, yet they can't seem to figure out that masks don't stop the spread of COVID for these kids. How is it we can spend all this time and energy doing these massive math problems, yet we can't figure out a simple statistic? So when the school board goes to meet with legislators in Juneau to discuss funding, I would really ask that you guys only accept funding with no strings attached, because if we get right down to it, the truth of why these masks are on these kids' face is because of the funding source. I'm sure a lot of the parents in the school system, with their students in the school system, don't realize that. They think it's, quote, to keep the kids safe. It's not. It's because the funding came with strings attached. And I've come to many, many of these meetings and tried to just sit here quietly, but everyone is kind of running out of patience here. So that's the truth. That's why your kids have masks on, is because of the funding source. So please, no more of that type of funding. And I've also noticed that the city of Sitka has now added to the dashboard, to the COVID dashboard, little influenza terminology. So I hope that we're not going to see now masking and testing for influenza for our kids to keep them in school. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isabel Schmetzer. As we have seen from many scientific studies and throughout the history of COVID-19, we have seen that masks do stop the spread of COVID. An example of how these masks stop spread of COVID is we have seen in the interior of Alaska, specifically in the North Star School Board District, how they made masks optional and their cases rose significantly. They had kids getting sick from COVID and going home. Furthermore, I would like to state how it is much more detrimental to a child's mental and physical health if they have to stay home from school in quarantine and they are not able to socialize with their friends and peers because they get sick from COVID. It is a simple fact that if masks are removed, these kids will get sick. We have seen it in many other activities throughout the Sitka School District, such as DDF and basketball. When these kids are removing their masks, they have had positive cases on their teams and they have had to quarantine and they have had to further suspend these activities. The basic truth of the matter is that these masks are keeping kids safe, and it has been proved in many scientific studies that these masks are not damaging the brain, they are not damaging the body, and they are not causing further harm to these kids. The truth of the matter is that it is the best path and the best choice to require students to wear these masks, and we have seen when they do not wear these masks that they suffer adverse effects. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any, oh, sorry.
Hi, my name is Chelsea McLeod. I have 3 children in the district. I have a few questions. I'm a little confused as to some recent travel and COVID exposures within the classrooms. Why is it that there isn't any consistency between the schools? Are we not using the same mitigation plan throughout each school? Return to travel from one school is this kid can't come back for 2 days and then on the 3rd day has to test. The other school, there's come back right away with no testing. My kid gets, I get a call and they say, she's been exposed, her classroom's been exposed, everyone has to get tested. The next day I get a call, another kid at a different school, sitting directly next to someone that tests positive, testing is optional. So I'm a little confused what's happening within the schools. Why is it different? It makes it really confusing as parents, and why one kid has to stay home and the other kids can return to school. I'm not really sure if we're all following the same mitigation plan. So, next is, we've been addressing our concerns as parents. We see firsthand what's happening to the emotional development, their education, and I'm wondering, when are we going to address the educational gaps that are happening, that we're seeing? the emotional welfare of our children? When are we going to start talking and having that discussion? I can tell you firsthand that my daughter's health is deteriorating rapidly wearing a mask, to the point of where I'm about to get a mask exemption for her because it is so bad. She's having headaches every single day and having to miss school now because of mask wearing. And I'm just done with it. She can't learn in this environment. And it's not fair because the masks aren't doing anything. If we have enough of these KN95s now, let's go optional. Whoever wants to wear that, those are proven to stop the spread and protect you and protect others. So whoever wants to wear those, why don't we go to that? And let the kids that don't want to be free. Let the kids that have already had COVID breathe. They're not going to continue. We're getting to a point where our town has basically reached a point of where everyone has gotten COVID. And we need to recognize that. It is a virus and it's going to keep mutating forever. Let's try to do what's best for our kids and their education, because it is really hard to navigate these times with the fear that these children are being pressured into. And not only that, just their emotional welfare, and now it's becoming a physical problem that I'm seeing within my own household. So please, can we have this discussion to we have the resources, we have the KN95s, let's go optional. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Janine Brooks. I'm a school social worker for the school district. I've been with the district for 22 years, and I've done social work for about 32 years. I wanted to thank you for your hard work on mitigations. We are having quite a surge right now, and we're hanging in there. I wanted to tell you what school looks like. Our kids are psyched to be there. They're so appreciative that they get to have in-person school. The masks are annoying, but really, they put them on when they come in, and it's kind of a matter of fact, and we're all getting used to it, and we will be thrilled when we don't have to wear them. But in my year at Keat this year, I've never had a child complain about a mask to me. We have to remind them to pull them up over their nose, and that's kind of the extent of it. But what the mental health and developmental concerns that I always have are for what the impact of remote school was on students. And they are so delighted to be in in-person school that while the mitigations are, I'm sure, annoying, kids are just living and learning and embracing school. I wanted to also add that in my office, I am dealing with COVID, and not related to the irritation of any mitigation, but helping students who've lost a parent through their grief to COVID. We have a child who's fighting for their life due to medical complications from COVID. Those are issues that are hitting my counseling office, and students are just so grateful to be back at school. So thank you. Right now we're doing a lot of tests to stay at school, and it's incredible how smoothly that is actually going. I thought you should know that. Our secretaries are incredible, but we are keeping kids healthy and in school to the best of our ability because of your mitigation. So I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Laban. Good to see you here all again tonight. Again, I will start by saying I am a parent to a middle school student in this district, as well as an employee at Baranoff. I will say again to this board and to this board and to my daughter's administration team at Blatchley this week that I am standing in strong opposition to all of the COVID mitigations, as they are completely discriminatory in nature. It's disappointing this board and district continues to perpetuate mistruths regarding what's actually happening now, not in March of 2020. Mistruths like kids under the age of 18 are disease vectors and will infect elders and family, when in fact it's actually unhealthy adults who have a lot of comorbidities who are having the worst outcomes. Mistruths like referencing other school closures in the Mat-Su district. There are over 40 schools in the Mat-Su district. I graduated from one of them, and 70% of their days have been in green without masking students. Because of the way their mitigation plan was written, they did not just use the federal template provided. They also do not base their alert levels on city numbers, but on each individual building's numbers that are evaluated weekly. I would suggest this board consider that to be a way better way to alert the children that this is what's happening in your school, not what's happening in town. That creates fear. Because at the end of the day, we are responsible for them and their health, and they are not responsible for you and your health or the health of any community members. It's just not how it works. I find it concerning that the board offering only partial information. Of the 7,000 school closures mentioned earlier tonight, less than 50 had to do with COVID, and the rest were for staffing shortages. I want to remind families, students, and community members that in my conversations I have on a regular basis, I am finding more people are going along with these mitigations, not because they are effective, but because they want to keep their job. I've been told it verbatim. That's disappointing. This is about kids, not us. It's hard to hear we need to continue testing students in the buildings when I know there are full classrooms that have already all tested positive and they're continuing to test them. Why? We have all been exposed at this point, and to reference Mat-Su again, they just removed their mask mandate for yellow. So why aren't we? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hit the button. Is it good? Tim Holder here. Mine will be short and sweet too. I wasn't really thinking I was going to make it in tonight. I just basically want to say 2 weeks to flatten the curve. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It's been over 2 years, and 2 years in a child's life is an eternity. I mean, we're taking such a huge chunk. My kids are all adults now, and I am here mostly because I just cannot believe what I would be doing if my kids all had to do this. I don't know if I can put up with it. But 2 years is just too much in a kid's life, and that's mainly what I want to tell you guys. Because what we can do, we're going to go 5 years, 10 years. It's too much. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comments tonight?
We were supposed to have call-ins.
Do we have anyone on there, Chris? Okay. All right, then I'm going to turn this over to the board now. And because this is a discussion item, it's just open for discussion. So pipe in if you want to.
Well, I guess I would comment that it's, it has been a long, frustrating road. Certainly, if there's inconsistencies between buildings, that's something that it's good for the superintendent to hear, so you can talk about to the admin team and follow up on those things. Really important. It's important to remember that, we are under city. We are under the city the ordinance till March 22nd, which I noticed that was right about where you circled. So those things might be coming into a collision at the same time. So when the city is removed and numbers will come down. So that's pretty fantastic. It's important to remember, too, that all these mitigations didn't necessarily come from the board. They came from the volunteers that did all of the research, which was from parents, staff, and then citizens at large. And there was a group, when John Holtz put it together originally, there was a group for each individual school. And those are the ones that continue to meet. You know, and one of the things that John had come up with there, well, not come up with, but one of the guidance was is that they could spend their time and uber focus on where that was. So, you know, that's how we kind of got to this point today. You know, and to come back to a couple of statements, you know, as far as learning loss, that's been a huge concern of the board since last year. That was one of the things, even before we came back. And, you know, we worked really hard to make sure to keep the doors open. When we had to shut down in the fall of, I don't even remember what year it is now, I guess it was not this past fall, but the fall before, you know, in November or whatever that was. And that was a tough time for my kids too. And the spring before, it was a lot of strife for sure. You know, when I think back to that, when we had to shut down, we were getting a lot of emails from, obviously, you know, there's a myriad of different opinions across the district. And, but getting the doors open was the big priority. Everybody agreed that the kids all needed to be together. And, you know, I want you to know that we're hearing everybody, and we're doing our best to try and bring balance between all the needs. So hopefully we're going in the right direction. And I really appreciate you guys coming out and sharing your thoughts and feelings. Oh, and all the emails as well. Thank you.
I really can't add on anything more to what Paul said. Paul, I would have to echo. When this started, we did have the COVID-19 task force, which included community members. We have continually listened to both sides of our community's concerns, and the main focus has been keeping our school doors open, because when they do close, it affects everyone across the board. It affects our community economically. And as a parent, when we had at-home schooling, it affected my children completely. I will disclose that I have a son who has Asperger's, which means that he has trouble picking up on nonverbal social cues. We have experienced setbacks with him. We have experienced setbacks with both of our daughters because of the homeschooling that we had to do when school was closed. When it comes to staff shortages, it's really concerning because it is a real threat, because legally we have to have so many people in the building to keep our doors open. So I want to say, most of all, I want to thank President Morrison for being so gracious, because we are 5 people here at the board, and we have remained human. We are people of the community, and we've heard your concern, and we could most possibly cut everyone off right at 3 minutes. And I think we've given everyone here in the room a very open and communicative response. We have had people go over the 3 minutes. I understand it's an emotional subject, but please be advised that we could be a little bit more strict, but yet we remain to be open, because we understand this is a community and nationwide issue, and there is no clear answer. I do have to say, when this started, it was so heartbreaking to see the graduations being taken away from the first year of the pandemic that happened, the state championships, the sports. All tonight, we've listened about how children are in our buildings competing, engaging with teachers, and that in itself is such a powerful statement because across the state, schools are closing. And so, you know, no one's going to, this is an issue that is dividing a community, and a divided community is not the ideal thing, but we're doing what we can. We do hear your concerns, and masks are annoying. They are, and we do have a plan, an exit plan for when we do reach the parameters of the community, and that's up to the community. So, you know, if you want to see masks off of our children, let's have the numbers go down. That's on you.
Alex, on me.
Hey, you know, we were very respectful and listened to you guys, and I would appreciate the same, so please be respectful.
So, guys, as the newest, one of the newest board members, I look and I see common threads. Okay, we all love our kids. We love them to death. That's here and that's there. Okay, we all want our kids to be healthy. We want our kids to thrive. Okay, that's the goal. I think that's across the board. I think that's the goal. Our philosophy to get there is totally different. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. I'm just saying it's different. Okay? Each board member here, we all have kids at one point in the district somewhere, one grade. Okay? We have skin in this game as well. It's not a me against you. It's not a us against them. Okay? We are all in this together. And it sounds corny, but we can get through this together. Okay? It's just going to take some time. You just got to be patient. Schools are open, and it's not by accident. It's because of mitigations. This is how it is. There's in-person learning. Okay, there's travel, there's concerts, there's sports, there's debate. Everything is open, and it's not by accident. All right, we are all in this together. It's not a me against you. Okay, it never has been.
Yeah, thanks everybody for speaking and for the communication that we've received. We have received lots of correspondence on this, and at least an equal amount of people emailing or talking to us saying thank you for the mitigations that you are doing. I wouldn't feel safe being in school or sending my kids to school if it wasn't the way that it is right now. So we have to remember, as you all know, everyone has a perspective on this, and everyone has an idea of what the best thing to do is. I know for me, being on the board and also having the job that I have and being in the community centered on it, and I'm not the only person who has a position like that, but it's just been one decision after the next of like, there's no great options here. The great option is, can we just pretend this isn't happening and everything goes back to normal? And we can't do that. Our mentality, I know, speaking for us, for myself, it's really difficult to know what the right thing. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. it's a matter of looking at what do we think the best option is and not knowing. And somebody said at the beginning, a good friend of mine, when talking about all of this, was saying, you know, we'll never know if we did too much to combat this pandemic, but we will know if we haven't done enough. And I don't apologize for operating in an overly safe, overly cautious manner. While you are correct that parents are responsible for your kids, I might have misheard, but in the notes I'm taking, saying that we aren't responsible for the health of students than that parents are, but we are. And Mr. Hauser is, while you are responsible for your kids, Mr. Hauser is responsible for over 1,100 students and over 200 staff, and keeping the buildings functioning and operating in a safe manner. And when I think about how I understand mask usage, I know my experience. I know that schools have had a very strict mask policy. In my day job, we have had various mask policies at one time or another, but the reality has been that masks have been optional. And I've seen that when I have a staff member get sick, generally they take one or two other people down with them as far as, okay, now this crew is out, this part of the building has all been infected. And in school, what I've seen in asking the questions that I've asked, we've had very little record of any community transmission within our classrooms. Somebody gets sick. I mean, my kids have been called, or I've been called as a parent numerous times, oh, your son is a close contact, your daughter's a close contact. And they've never tested positive. And I really credit the masking mitigation that has kept that from spreading. Now you can say, well, kids just don't transmit the disease, but we don't know that. And I know that people say masks they make people sick, they hurt people. I asked if we've had any, we had somebody a meeting or two ago talk about a girl with a staph infection on her face. I don't see any of that happening in our building. I know that masking is difficult for lots of people. Nobody loves it, as has been said numerous times. I know I've been working in a mask for 2 years, and it's something that I've just gotten used to. I haven't gotten, the only time I got sick was when I actually got COVID a couple of weeks ago. I was around somebody and we weren't masking, and I got it. And so, but I haven't had like regular stomach bugs or head colds or flus that I normally would get throughout the course of the year. And again, this could be, I credit the masking on that. So, I just hear a lot of frustration, and it's really tough when we have, I feel like we're being made out to be the bad guy. We're not the bad guy. Mr. Hauser's not the bad guy. We really are working hard, and teachers are super concerned about the health and well-being of students. And I know that they take that very seriously. There's communication chains. We heard from Ms. Brooks tonight, who works as a counselor in the schools. I have to trust that if students really were crashing out left and right because of mask wearing, that we would hear about it, that we would know that there's major damage being done to our students. And so I feel good about trusting going forward. Let's get to, as Blossom said, it's on us as a community to make these numbers go down. And, but at this point in the pandemic, it's really difficult to say, here's what we need to do differently, because I think people are pretty well set in their ways. And so, the curves that we saw from Mr. Hauser and his report earlier, those look good. And I really think we're heading in the right direction. And I appreciate the chance to get to speak on this in more of a conversation, and hearing from everybody else again tonight. So, yeah, do you want to say something?
I just want back and forth. This isn't a conversation. But
yeah.
Okay, do you have a question for us that we can speak to?
I'll be careful.
Oh, no, we can't? Okay, all right, I guess, I'm sorry, I'm not leading the meeting, so, okay. But there are, I'll let you go ahead. I'm sorry, I've talked enough, so thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Those of you that are listening respectfully, I appreciate it.
and I just want to clarify, because I know people get really frustrated with this whole conversation, not conversation piece, and I apologize, but we are obligated by the Open Meetings Act of Alaska. We cannot sit here as a group, the whole body of 5 people, and have back and forth conversations. We are not legally allowed to do that. If you want to have a conversation with 1 or 2 board members, you can do that at any point in time. You can reach out to us. I know a lot of you have talked to us. We have opened our doors to you guys and said, we will talk to you. I've talked to a lot of you on the phone. I can't even tell you how many hours into this, and I know my fellow board members have too. So just keep that in mind. We will have a discussion. We just can't do it as a board at 5 people. We can sit here and listen to you, and you can listen to us, and we are learning, like I think Andrew said, Paul said, a few of us said, we read every single email and correspondence that we get. We listen to every single thing that everybody is saying. So please don't think that we're not listening. And I think at the end of the day, I think you just said it, we and Todd too, all we care about are our kids. That's bottom line. We wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't care about our kids. You wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't care about your kids. And I think the one thing that we can agree on is that we want our kids to be in school, and our kids are in school. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Do we wish we could take the masks off? Absolutely. But our kids may not be able to be in school if we do that, and that's the choice that we are dealing with. If you want to help, if you want to actively help, sign up to be a substitute teacher, because we do not have substitute teachers right now. So when our teachers are out, if we have too many out, we will close. Parents can't just go in and volunteer. You have to be a certified, or that may not be the right word, but you have to be on the list. There's steps you have to go through. So I encourage all of you, please go sign up and be a substitute teacher, and that will help us immensely. So that's really all I have to say. I know everyone loves your kids. I thank you for everything that everyone is saying. And like I said, we do encourage the discussion. It just can't be at this table. So you know how to get a hold of us. Trust me, I know you do. Anyone else have any other comments on that before I move on to the next item? All right. So moving on to item 13B, written public testimony. Really, all I want to do on this one is just kind of let everyone know that we did just implement a new procedure, and I'm just going to read this so I don't get it wrong. But the Sitka School Board will begin receiving formal written public testimony for each of its regularly scheduled school board meetings. Those who wish to submit written testimony may do so by emailing comments to schoolboard@sitkaschools.org, and the subject has to be public testimony. Written public testimony is accepted for both action and non-action or non-agenda items, and is subject to the same regulations as oral testimony through Board Policy 9323. Written testimony will not be read aloud during board meetings, but will be compiled and available online with each month's meeting agenda. Submitted written testimony will become part of the meeting record. So like I said before, we do get a lot of written testimony, and if you want it to become attached to the meeting, the agenda meeting, why am I cannot say this? The meeting minutes is what I'm trying to say. Just put that in the comments and it will get included.
Can I jump in on one thing?
Sure, yeah.
And I don't know if anyone noticed, and I just wanted to give Dawn a big thanks and compliment that the minutes were really, really complete off this last meeting, that, because some folks had raised an issue about that, so I was glad to see that it got addressed. So thanks for pointing that out, and thanks for getting on that. It's important.
Yes, thank you, Don. All right, there is no correspondence and information tonight, so we are on to item 15, executive session, and if we can get a motion for that.
Sorry, I got lost in here.
That's okay.
I move to go into executive session in accordance with and under the provision as 44.62.310C12, the immediate knowledge of which would clearly have an adverse effect upon the finances of the district and subjects that tend to prejudice the reputation and character of any person, provided the person may request a public discussion. The matters to be discussed are contract negotiations and a personal matter. Mr. Hauser, Don Gluth, Leslie Young, and Genevieve Hollins are invited.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session in accordance with and under the provisions of AS 44.62.310C12, the immediate knowledge of which would clearly have an adverse effect upon the finances of the district and subjects that tend to prejudice the reputation and character of any person, provided the person may request a public discussion. The matters to be discussed are contract negotiations and a personnel matter. Mr. Hauser, Don Gluth, Leslie Young, and Genevieve Hollins are invited. Is there any public comment to the motion? Any board comments? Is there any objection to the motion? All right, motion passes, and we are moving into executive session at 8:25 p.m. And we'll actually take a 5-minute break before we go in.
Mr. Hauser, are you going to take your computer out?
Don't